Hi, I'm Eric, and welcome to my channel. So congratulations, you've decided to bring tabletop role-playing to your classroom, and you want to know what to do. So this morning, I'm going to tell you all about kind of how I introduce Dread to the classroom. So a couple of things you'll need before you get started. You'll need some kind of a tumbling block tower. Obviously, Jenga is the brand name, but there's lots out there. You will need, well, you'll need to know some rules about the game, obviously, and you'll need some kind of a story scenario. Now, if you're someone who likes to write and you want to write your own game, obviously, giddy up. I love it when teachers get to share their writing with students, and so that students get to see you at writing. So I think that's a fantastic thing. I will propose to you, however, that I am going to be starting a subscription service, and I am going to release my own stories for sale through a subscription program. And so I will have you hooked up if you want to run my stories. So let me pitch you on that. So as to starting the game, I always start because not every kid in your class is going to know about role-playing games. So I start by letting them know kind of what it is in real terms. And you might also have parents or administrators who aren't really sure what it is you're doing in class. So what I would tell them is that at the core of it, a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game, is a group storytelling game whereby there's a main narrator, and that person is going to tell the main events in the story. And then the players as characters get to respond to those events and decide sort of what they want to do about it. So we trade the narration, the narrator telling the main events of the story, the players as characters responding to those events with their actions. There's always a game mechanic to determine if it works. And then we continue on with the consequences of those actions and the rest of the events as they unfold in the story. So really, there's nothing, you know, it's a really positive, great experience. Some people hear about role playing and they hear about conflict and groups not working together. I have some cornerstones that I'm going to tell you about that I adhere to and that make the running of my games really, really smooth. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. But basically, once you've introduced that, I always provide an example, telling them, some kind of a scenario and soliciting the opinions of the students just to get them into the idea of I tell part of the narration and then they respond to it. So I'll say something like, you walk up to the abandoned house and there are nosy neighbors around and you don't want anyone noticing that you're going into the house and doing who knows what. So, but you get to the front door and it's stuck. Just years of wind and rain and weather beating against the door, and the wood has swollen in the door jamb until it's stuck shut. And then students always have a lot of suggestions about what they can do. So, knock down the door with your shoulder, kick it in, look for a back door, smash a window. All of those are reasonable responses. And then I would pick up the narration based on whatever the consequences of that are. Just to give them an example of I tell you something and then you respond to it with, your character's action. Now, unlike some of the other games, of course, this game does not use dice. It uses a Jenga tower. So how does that work? Well, the dice are there because we can't narrate everything. So sometimes things go well, sometimes things go badly, but we can't narrate all of the tiny little things that happen that lead up to that moment. The mosquito that lands on your ear, the sneeze that wells up, all of those things. So what we do instead of rolling dice is we pull blocks from the Jenga tower. So if you want to do something that could reasonably fail, then I will invite you to come up and pull a block, or maybe more than one block from the Jenga tower. So if you succeed, your character succeeds in what they were trying to do. I narrate that success, and we continue with the game. However, let's say that you walk up to the tower and you see that it is unstable, and you decide, you know what, I changed my mind. I don't want to try and pull a block. You can sit back down. I narrate that you tried to do the thing and your character just couldn't do it. It fails. However, if you try to pull a block from the tower and the tower collapses for any reason, as long as you are the one at the switch, your character dies right away, We narrate it right in the story, we rebuild the tower, and then we keep going because, of course, one death is not the end of a horror story. It's usually the beginning. So, as the game goes on, people are continuing to chew up the tower as they commit actions to the game, and eventually someone's luck runs out. And of course, my job as the main narrator, or in the case of Dread, it's called the host. So the host is trying to build up the story and hit the right moment when the tower is most unstable, when the narrative action is happening. That's the trickiest or the scariest or whatever. So we're trying to get that narration to the point where it's reaching its maximum tension at the same time as we have this really unstable tower. And it's an awesome thing because, of course, the kids are into the story, so they're into that feeling of the narrative, but also at the same time, they are physically aware in the room of the tower being unstable, being ready to fall. So it actually kind of really makes them feel something, and they, feel that along with the story. Um, Even though it's just, is a Jenga tower going to fall, that those emotions, feelings all marry up, and it makes for a really, really awesome, tense scenario. The student audience members are always into it, but we'll get back to that later. Um, it's a really awesome thing, and the great thing about Dread, as compared to some other role playing games, is how simple it is. There's really only three states to the tower. You succeed in your check, you chicken out, or the tower drops. So there's no hit points, saving throws, looking up different dice and, what damage die do I use for this weapon? Nothing like that. It is so simple to run. So easy to make characters. You don't have to know. You don't have to have three books, for instance. I love that game, but you don't need three core books in order to play the game. It's a really low bar for entry as far as role playing is concerned. But you don't have to know a lot of things in order to even make a character. The way we make characters in this game is I provide you a questionnaire. There's always 13 questions, always finishing with what is your name? But the rest of the questions kind of tell me more about the psychology of your character. What we're trying to do is hit a number of different things about the character's life, such that there are some touchstones to look at and say, well, if these things are true about my character, I could reasonably assume this about my character. And kids have a tough time with the questionnaire, but again, I'll address that in a little bit. Once they get into some detailed writing, and once I coach them a little bit about how to make a character that the answers kind of connect and make sense, then they can actually make some assumptions about the character in play. So if my character is the kind of person that this, we can also assume that they might be the kind of person that does that. And I'll walk through that a little bit with you. So it's very simple to play. It's not hard to make a character once you get into kind of the writing component of it. And then I tell them about the stories. I usually offer 4 stories because I cap my players at 8 players per game. And then if I have 4 games at 8 players, I can run a class of 32 by the time I'm done. So that's a little bit of, kind of managing on my part because, of course, with my job, I come in multiple times and I run things. But, of course, if you want to do this in your own classroom, obviously you have, as long as the whole year to get your games in and to get your students to play. So once I've introduced sort of the rules of the game, explaining a little bit about role playing, what it is, the questionnaire, why the questionnaire matters, why the details matter. And I do run through a whole kind of writing workshop with them about why the details are important. And what I tell them, of course, is the details help you to get into your character so that you can understand the brain space of your character and better play that character. It also helps me because, of course, when I'm trying to put you into the story that I've created, I want to know more about your character so that I can kind of tie that narrative in and make it make sense and make you feel more like your character is, really in this story. And then also, it has an effect on the gameplay. So, while we're playing, um, choices that you've made in making your character can actually affect the blocks being pulled on the tower. As a for instance, um, let's say that we're at that front door again and it's stuck shut. But you said when you created your character, no, no, my character is a linebacker on the school's football team. You can't convince me that kid can't get the door down. It's just going to take a minute. Like, they throw their weight around, they tackle people. They can get a stuck door open. It's not locked, it's just stuck. So when they walk up to the tower, I say, no, no, sit down. You get this one for free. You don't have to pull a block, thereby putting yourself in danger of knocking the tower over. You can sit down, and then I narrate that character's success without even having pulled a block. However, if you wrote in your character, no, my character's a little small, a little sickly, kind of like misses a lot of school because of sickness, kind of frail, not really physical, that character might have to pull a block to get the door open, and then a second block to not become injured during the process. Then that has a measurable effect on the game because, of course, you know, pulling no blocks or one block or two blocks will matter over time to the tower that we're slowly eating away at until we get to a character death. So it's really fun. I give the students a lot of choice in how to approach the questionnaire, how to create a character. I've instituted a limiting feature to their questionnaires because I got really tired of kids saying, no, no, I'm a super ninja. I was raised in the woods by wolves and I have 12 weapon skills and I'm good at everything. I have an energy shield that blocks everything. No, you don't. I've instituted something called decision points. So not every question is a decision point, but questions that kind of will probably functionally matter to the gameplay and not just flavor for the character, I name decision points. It's right in bold type, right on the questionnaire. And when they answer questions, they have to pick a road. Either they will answer sort of average, and if they can honestly say that they're whatever they're answering falls in the range of average for a regular person, then they would have 0 points. If they give themselves sort of a penalty by assigning something worse off than what I'm even asking, they would subtract a point. And if they're giving themselves a great benefit with their answer, so whatever their answer is going to give them kind of a bonus in gameplay, then they add 1 point. And then by the time they're done, and they have to tally all of their points that they've assigned for their decision points, they're allowed to have a total of +1 or less. So if you answered everything average, you would end up with a 0. That's acceptable. If you gave yourself a couple of bonuses and one drawback, you'd end at +1, totally acceptable. You can't end with +6 or something like that. You're not John Wick. You're not, you're a regular person. And I do teach them about that. Teach them about how horror is a different genre than they might be used to. But if you want to, sorry, I just digressed there. But if you want to, you can create the Shaggy and Scooby-Doo character in the group, and you can give yourself a horrible penalty, and you can answer your questions so that you end up at a -5 or something. And because you say, oh, it's going to be awesome if all of the people try to save my bacon all the time. And I have had people play those characters, and they're amazing. I tell them, don't worry about assigning drawbacks. Some of the drawback things are really amazing for gameplay. I mean, imagine you're in the closet. You're hiding from the thing that's hunting you. You know it's in the room with the rest of you because you can hear it breathing on the other side of the closet door. And then you look over at Todd. And Todd, when he gets freaked out, sometimes he screams, and you see on his face he's ready to pop. That's a great moment in a horror story. Are you kidding? Wondering what's going to happen in the next 10 seconds when Todd pops. That's a great moment. And I don't want students to kind of cheap themselves out of that moment. So give yourself flaws, give yourself drawbacks, write interesting characters, and then watch as they try to deal with whatever it is that's going on. Um, Now, if this were a game that I'm playing kind of on my own with friends, it would be maybe a 3 or 4 hour game. But in classes, I never get that length of time. I usually book 2-ish hours. Sometimes I'll book a whole morning with the teacher. We'll work around recess. Everyone watch out for the tower as you leave the room, and then come back in after recess. By the time it's done, it might be a 2-2.5 hour game. We don't usually get to an ending, even with 2 or 2.5 hours. So, but what I do say is that gives us a huge and awesome story starter. Then you guys can write the end. What do you think should happen? Keep it horror. Don't suddenly make it into an action movie. It's so rich in language arts stuff. They get into the character writing. They get into the creating a good ending. They have jobs to do while the game's going on. If you're not a player, you're doing something else. I'll tell you about that in another video. And it's so amazing to watch these kids kind of use critical thinking, get into the writing, get excited by the writing, ask each other about the writing, look for advice about how to write this stuff, trade opinions and ideas after the game when they're having a group discussion about what they experience from a story standpoint. I can't sell this enough. It's an amazing thing to do. This is just a little quick, how I introduce it. Um, like I said, yes, you can get a copy of Dread online, purchase a copy, and write your own stories. That's great, but I love this so much, and I've run this for 3 years now. I really want to get some of these awesome stories out to you. So keep watching this channel. I'm going to tell you more about the next bit the next time, and look forward to telling you again. Take care in the meanwhile, and see you soon. Bye.